Lisa and I welcome Sierra Sil to our podcast. Got a grumpy old man in your life? Change that. Okay, not that way. Sierra Sil Natural Mineral Joint Pain Relief with a money-back guarantee at Shoppers, London Drugs, and the best health food stores.
Head over to sierrasil.com, SIERRASIL.com. Use your code GF and get 10% off your purchase.
It's episode 6 of Gracefully and Frankly. Hi there, I'm Erin Davis.
I'm Lisa Brandt. Can you believe it? We're half a dozen now.
Yes, we are. And because next week is Valentine's Day, we're going to focus a little bit on relationships. Is there such thing as the one, or is that a myth?
And does that come from Prince Charming and Disney movies and all those fairy tales that we love so much, but they've given us a kind of skewed view of what love is, that it's all supposed to be romance and flower petals and all that kind of thing. It takes more than that to keep a marriage together.
It sure does. Oh, did I ever tell you the time that Rob bought me rose petals once, and it was in a plastic bag, and he spread them out on the bed, and it was dark, and I went to get into bed, and I screamed because I felt like I was being bitten. These things were dried. They were potpourri. They weren't actual rose petals. So there's a hack. If you're going to do the rose petals, yeah. Anyway, so it isn't all rose petals. Do you change your name when you get married? What was the secret to my luck in that? And can you have a successful relationship without fighting? We're going to get into all of that. Plus, we're going to re-up our questions for their Gracefully and Frankly Envy Pillow giveaway because they are our sponsor. We're so grateful to Kathy and Kim, huh, Lisa?
Oh, yeah. And for all of the entries that have already come in so far, and we're expecting many more, so get yours in if you want one of these beautiful pillows.
Do it right now because midnight Eastern time on Friday, February 10th, we are shutting it down and we will announce the winners that will be randomly drawn 5 winners from all of the correct answers to our 10 multiple choice questions. Okay, are we ready to roll, sister?
Always.
Well, you know what's never going to be our theme song, Lisa, is We Just Disagree. And apparently somebody has already said, hey, I'm still waiting for you guys to disagree about something. And that has really, really gotten in my head. What about you?
I thought that maybe we would have come up to something by now that we disagreed in. Well, the truth is, Erin, we have different philosophies on some things, but isn't that part of what friendship is? You kind of accept the person and maybe hum your favorite song while they're talking about that thing, and then you move on. And it's like, it's not a big deal. We're all going to have differences, but we don't disagree.
And maybe that's what makes a friendship is you stick with your pod, right? It's an affinity. It's whether it's the people you have the same beliefs or that you grew up in the same area or you have some common thread. So I think I avoid people that I disagree with. I am averse to confrontation.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. And I think it comes down to your values too. Do you have the same values? Do you value honesty? All those things. I mean, I can think of a lot of people that I've met that I would not want to have as a friend because I wouldn't be able to ever trust them or whatever, Right. I think that's got a lot to do with it. And when you find somebody who's got those same values, and that you can completely trust, it makes a friendship.
Does it make for a better broadcast/podcast if we disagree? I know that teams are put together on the radio because they can spark off each other. They're not exactly alike. Like, for example, my best partnerships, the first one with Dawn Daynard, we were a generation apart. We couldn't have been more different. And that's what made the chemistry. It made for a hard time in the room, but it made for a good show on the air. And then with Cooper, Mike Cooper, with a blue ribbon heart and a blue collar mindset, was so different from mine. My idea of 2 weeks off was going to Egypt. His was going to the cottage, So we were so different, but those were the things that made it magic. So I know people are enjoying this. We've had so many great responses and wonderful feedback to this. I don't want to be those people who manufacture something to fight about. Do people need to hear us fight?
No, I don't think they do. Yes, they do.
You're wrong.
No, and I think you nailed it when you said there were differences, but you didn't have to argue to make magic on the radio, right? You didn't have to take opposite positions, or did you?
Not on purpose. My husband used to produce Talking of Sports with Bob McCowan back on The Fan. And he and his co-host at the time, Bill Waters, who came from Maple Leafs hockey, would have a point of view, and Bob would automatically take the opposite just to make it interesting. But that's not who we are. We are not fighting in the ring and all of that.
We're more like improv, where one of the fundamental rules of improv is
yes and. Exactly.
You come off what your partner says and you say yes and. Even if it's something that you're opposing, you can say yes and still oppose without sounding awkward and mean or like you're throwing out what the other person said.
Exactly. In our marriage, which, as I've mentioned a few times, is coming up on 35 years this month, we have accept that. That's our thing. I'll say, Rob, I think that this deck should be 8 feet deep. And he'll go, yeah, accept that. If you want to open the doors, blah, 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 blah. So it's not a no, but it's, hey, look at this point of view. And I have to confess to you that I think a lot of people would view us as freaks of nature, Rob and I, because I think I could count on my middle finger how many really bad fights we've had. And that was before we even got married. Are we that weird? And we're going to talk about you being a multiple marrier and on your final one in weeks to come, I promise you.
Multiple marrier.
I didn't say serial. No. Oh, boy.
I am the Liz Taylor of my family, or J-Lo. Yeah.
She's got more rings than my bathtub. Hello. But I know J-Lo. Did you see Ben Affleck at the Grammys the other night?
Oh.
He looked like he was there for a work project.
He is every person who's dragged to their spouse's Christmas party.
Yeah.
And they don't want to go. That's exactly what he looked like. She's dancing in her seat and he's looking like, when can we leave? Yeah.
Honestly, you're supposed to be an actor.
Exactly.
Act.
Yeah.
Act like you're having fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Where were we? Where were we? Okay. All right. We were talking about serial marriages. Got it. Okay. Anyway, you're not. And I have the deepest love and respect for you and for Derek. And we're going to talk about what Lisa did to make this marriage work. But can you have a successful marriage when you don't fight?
Well, I think there's fighting and then there's respectful disagreement. And every couple's different. I know I can tell you about a couple that fights regularly. They're on fire and then they just go lock themselves in the bedroom for a day or two. That's how it works for them. I don't like fighting. I don't like that feeling of getting my back up, and Derek doesn't either. We have raised our voices at each other a couple of times, I guess. But we try not to, and we've never used names, ever, ever, ever. I don't think you can come back from that.
And you know what? There are beliefs that it's one of the keys to happiness is a bad memory. And I couldn't agree more with that in terms of, just kind of letting it go and leaving your heart open to forgiveness and for love, because looking in the rearview mirror doesn't do you any good.
And love is as much a decision as it is a feeling.
Ooh, hang on. Was that an original?
Yeah, I think so.
It's wonderful.
You have to decide that on those days when things aren't going great and they're being annoying, because we're all annoying at sometimes, I know I annoy him, that you're still going to act lovingly toward that person, even on a day when you don't totally feel like it. And we all have those days. Those days have to exist. Romantic love is, I don't know if I want to say fleeting or ebbs and flows or whatever it does. So I think there's a decision you have to make as well, as much as feeling that emotion.
I think that's brilliant. Love is as much a decision as it is a feeling. I think that's absolutely amazing. And when we come back, the whole idea of the one, is it a myth or a myther? So you sent me this article, Lisa, by Dan Savage, who I just love. He does a podcast, too. I mean, who doesn't? And it's called The Myth of the One. So enlighten us, if you would.
Well, Everybody seems to have this idea that there's one person out there for you and they're waiting for this magical moment, like in a movie or something, where everything clicks and there's angels singing and violins and all that kind of thing. And you just know. And a lot of times people feel they're going to know that minute they meet someone. And a lot of times the best relationships are based on friendships, and friendships take time to develop.
That's absolutely right. Yep.
So what he's saying is this whole thing about the one for you is bull, that there are a lot of people that you could have a great relationship with because there's give and there's take, and there's stuff that you decide to let slide, and there's stuff that you have to get used to. And maybe they like to do something you don't like to do, but you go along with them because you want this relationship. It's not ever perfect. There's always give and take, right?
Mm-hmm. No two people want the exact same things, according to Savage. He says no two people are 100% sexually compatible. No two people are 100% emotionally compatible. You're so right. And I would love to disagree with you on this, but I will say that although Rob and I worked together for a number of months before we actually had our first date that wasn't supposed to be a date, that date night, our hands touched, and I swear to God, I saw and felt sparks, like literal sparks, because he felt it too. And I will also tell you that in 1984, so 2 years before our first date, I was talking on the phone to a psychic who was going to be a guest on our radio show on another station, another city. And I kept the notes that I wrote from that day, and I had Robert in capital letters. I had doodled a square around it. She said it was going to be Robert.
Wow. How does that happen?
Well, I don't know. And it's not a name like Bentley or Mephistopheles. It's not something that nobody is ever going to be called. Robert is, let's face it, a pretty common name. So I recognize that.
Still, it wasn't Paul. It wasn't Steve. It was Robert.
It was Robert, and it is Robert. So, yes, from that moment, it took like under 2 weeks, 10 days or something after that, we were engaged for the first time because we knew. And I introduced him to my mom, and I said, I was in the kitchen, he was in the living room. I didn't want to scare him off, but I said, I'm going to marry this guy. And she went, yeah, sure. And yeah, indeed. I did. And he was the one and is the one. So for me, there was the one. But you're right. There is a lot of shape shifting that goes on in order to fit like the yin and the yang.
Yeah. And at the beginning of a relationship, maybe not with you guys and certainly not with everybody.
Sex.
Oh, actually, I wasn't even going to go there, but
well,
hey.
Certainly not us then. That's not what I meant at all. What? Is this a hot flash?
Where I was going was.
Yes.
That you present the best version of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You hide the farts.
Exactly.
And there are a lot of things that you just don't bring up about yourself in conversation because it's too early or whatever. So you're getting the best version of somebody. It's funny, when you mentioned about you guys being engaged for the first time 2 weeks in, have you seen the Pamela Anderson documentary? Okay. Well, because it was so good and so real to her with Tommy Lee marrying 4 days after they met, she thought every relationship started that way. You get married.
Wow.
And then that's why she got married so much. She'd get married and then go, oh, well, this isn't right. And then be horrified with the guy 2 months in or 8 months in and get divorced. And she's not the woman we've been led to believe she is. She's sweeter and she's much more naive and sadder in many ways. But when it comes to relationships, she thought that there was going to be a one and that this is how you did it. Well, it turns out the one was the husband that she had first time around. So it's kind of fascinating. I recommend watching it. People have different ideas about what it's going to be. You want to talk strange?
Okay.
I'll tell you, my first husband introduced me to my third.
Are you on number 3 now for those keeping track at home with their scorecards? No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't judge. Honest to God, I don't judge.
It's okay.
Go back and tell me that again. Okay.
All right. So at a radio station in London, my first husband introduced me to my now husband. And I shook his hand, and I remember thinking, oh, crap, because there was only for me the kind of reaction that you and Rob had, maybe subtler, but the same idea. But it didn't happen that way for him. It only happened for me.
Oh, wow.
I knew for sure I was married to the wrong guy.
Okay. So can we please talk about you and Derek and what you did with your career? Now, there will be people who are listening to this going, you guys, you're talking about morphing and shape shifting and becoming the person that your significant other wants. No, no, no. If that's what you're hearing, I don't think we're expressing ourselves well enough, because what we mean to say is you are by now your own person, and you decide where you want to fit in and where you want him or her to fit in with you. This isn't all about changing yourself to meet your partner and make them happy. Please don't think that's what we're saying. What Lisa did, though, is astounding. And I was Team Lisa all the way here. I kept telling you the bridge will come. Just
leaping the parachute will come,
or the
something like
net,
that.
or the handsome firefighter, whatever.
The net.
Okay,
that's right. And you gave me a beautiful card that had that on it. And what happened was I came to a realization when my second marriage ended that I had life backwards for me. Not for anybody else, just for me, that I was putting my career first.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the job, but when I was getting divorced for the second time, I thought, I've got to make a change. This isn't the world's problem. This is mine, that I'm getting divorced again. There's something going on here. And the only common denominator is me.
That's very self-aware. That is so good.
And then when I got involved with Derek and we decided we were going to make a go of this thing after, I don't know, I guess I was in Toronto another year or so. We talked about him moving to Toronto. We talked about living halfway. We talked about all sorts of things. I loved my job.
Let's put it on pause for a second. Explain what it is that you did and where and with whom, because this is the pinnacle.
I co-anchored the morning news on 680 News with Paul Cook. And we had a big, wonderful team of support, of reporters. And so we worked with a crew of 16 or something. And it was top of the heap for what we did. And it was a wonderful time to be working there. A lot of sad stories, a lot of tough stories. 9/11, we went through 9/11 there. But it was just the best. But we got up in the middle of the night. There were a lot of things that were hard on my body. And it wasn't really until I got involved with Derek that I realized that I had things backwards and I wanted to flip things around and prioritize the relationship and see if I could maybe make one stick. So after we had all these discussions about where we'd live, and he was willing to live in Toronto if we could make that work. We knew how expensive that was. I've just sold a house there. Mm-hmm. We decided together that what made the most sense was for me to move to London. And so that's what I did. And he had just bought a house the year before. He did some renovations before I got there. And then I got there and went, okay, now what?
Now what indeed? Because you cut your income, I'm going to say by a quarter or like a 10.
Oh, my goodness, no. No, the fractions get
90%.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was huge. I got a job in radio doing middays on a sort of a greatest hit station, which I was grateful to get.
Yeah.
And I made less money there than I did working at London radio in the 80s.
Boy, and you wonder why radio is having such a hard time.
Yeah, the salaries are cut, the jobs are few, and you're expected to do more with less. But they were great people. I love working there.
People in the circle of Toronto radio and those who looked in from afar and saw this woman giving up her pinnacle post said you were nuts. They said you'll be back, and they offered you more. It was not a cut and dried decision, but you did it for love.
I did.
We have to go back to how you and Derek reconnected, though, because, Valentine's Day is coming up, and this really is worth looking at. Can you give us the fast forward of how it is that you two reconnected, how many years, and how it happened?
I hung on to one comment, "You're Seinfeld, you're leaving at the top." And I hung on to that when I would get kind of feeling abused by people who were just backhanded about me leaving Toronto for London.
Like what? Like what? Like what?
Well, just, wow.
This is what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you're sure.
Yeah.
And I also want to make clear that even though my first husband introduced us, Derek and I, we sort of went out here and there after my first marriage broke up, but I had quit on him completely. Like he was out of my life. Derek called me once when I was working in Kitchener, and on the phone I said to him, he remembers this very well, as long as we both live, never call me again.
Woo!
I wanted nothing to do with him. And so it wasn't like I spent my second marriage thinking maybe this will happen. I never thought about him. I never imagined it. And I don't care if anybody believes me or not, because that's the absolute truth. I got married. My second marriage was it until it wasn't. And then I guess word got to Derek somehow that I was single again. And he called and said, hey, I bought a house. Want to come and see it? And I thought, I have got absolutely nothing going on in my life socially. So I went and saw it. And with some little bumps in the road here and there, that was kind of it. That's how that happened. But I'll tell you, Erin, we were both drinking back in the day. And I knew that underneath that beer-soaked persona of his was the guy that's there today. And I can say the same about me. When I quit drinking, I became the person that I'm much prouder of now. So things had to change, right?
Wow. Yay. Let's hear it for happy endings so far.
Right.
Do you celebrate Valentine's Day?
Oh, big time.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Why wouldn't I?
Oh. Some people choose to be cynical and say, well, I don't need a day to tell me when to love someone. Oh, you just don't want to go buy a card.
Exactly. So if I'm going to get a card or something I like or a cupcake or something,
hey,
why not have another day to get that done? I'm all for it.
There you go.
We're not big, mushy on social media people or anything like that. But behind the scenes, we look after each other. And yeah, I think Valentine's Day, why not? Just bring it on. So we've discussed that I've been married roughly 700 times, and that means you could hyphenate my name all the way to the moon. You've been married once, Erin Davis, and you didn't change your surname.
I didn't. It was 1988, and I don't know if it was expected then, but I'll tell you, I have 3 sisters, and among them, they've had 8 marriages. Every one of them changed their name, and they went on to have collectively 8 marriages. I never changed mine, and I'm still on number 1. Am I lazy, Lisa?
No, I don't think so. I think maybe you have a reason.
For one thing, I really like the name Davis. It's hard to mispronounce. I get spelled Davies, and people will say Erin Davies, and I go, do you see an E in there? But anyway, it doesn't matter to me. But my husband's last name is Whitehead, and it is a very noble name. It is of British origin, and it also is of Indigenous origin, which he is not. But it's also the name of a pimple.
Right.
And so as soon as Lauren could go from being Lauren Dawn Davis Whitehead, she just went with Lauren Dawn Davis, and she was able to miss a lot of teasing. One of Rob's siblings was married for only 1 year, but it changed her name. And we joked that that was the only good thing to come out of the marriage. He kids with me every now and then. When his dad was still alive, he would say, that his dad would just love for me to take his name. And I went, well, that's nice. And I always promised one day it might be Erin Davis White or something, but no, it just doesn't make any sense. And Erin Davis, I got to tell you, is an anagram for risen diva. Why would I change that? Why would I change that? Right?
And it's wonderful. We have the choice. We don't have to, if we don't want to, change our names.
You're right. And I see hockey jerseys and the names are getting longer and longer because there's a hyphen in the middle of them. And part of that will be coming out of Quebec, of course, because of a 1976 rule about gender equality in names that forbids women from taking their husband's last name. And, other countries where women don't take their husband's last name, a lot of them in the Islamic world, in Greece, in France, you can change your last name colloquially, but not officially, in Italy and South Korea. So it's not this radical feminism.
Wow.
It's choosing to be who you want to be and then let your kids pick what they want to be. Or if it's going to be hyphenated, then deal with it. Just pay for more letters on the jersey. It's all it's going to be. We are at midnight on Friday, which is tomorrow, February 10th, midnight in the East. We will be closing off the answers to our Gracefully and Frankly quiz for one of 5 gorgeous Envy pillows, silk and copper. Go to envypillow.com and don't forget, use the promo code GF for 10% off whatever you buy there. So we're going to re-up the questions for you one last time. And Lisa, you go ahead with number 1.
All right. First question. What did Lisa's husband give her for Christmas that Aaron thought was whiskey? Was it A?
Did you say whiskey? Did you say?
I did.
You said whiskey. Hello. Try it again.
Try it again.
Risky, but not risque. Risky. Okay, go ahead.
A bathtub toaster oven. B, Shapermint shapewear. Or C, an anatomically correct Jason Momoa doll.
Ooh. Number 2, which musical did I not take my parents to back to back? A, Jersey Boys. B, Diana the Musical. C, The Sound of Music.
Question 3, a pseudo-controversy over which popular candy gave us a meltdown. A, M&M's. B, Smarties. C, Hershey Kisses.
4, which late broadcasting icon did we discuss? A, Lisa LaFlamme. B, Tucker Carlson. C, Barbara Walters.
Number 5, what company is Galen Weston the face of? A, Loblaws, B, Metro, or C, Sobeys?
6, Bell changed the way it handled its mental health initiative this year. So what was it? A, let's chat. B, let's talk. C, let's text.
7, what did Hazel McCallion tell us helped keep her youthful? A, grape nut cereal. B, orange-flavored Metamucil. Or C, tart cherry juice.
They're having her funeral on Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
on what would have been her 102nd birthday, eh? Wow. Okay, 8, what does the boss in the coffee test watch his interviewee do? A, what do they do with their cup afterwards? B, whether they slurp. C, how much sugar they add.
Number 9, it's the year of the rabbit. What animal sign do we share? Is it A, rabbit, B, snake, or C, tiger?
And 10, what future movie star did Aaron babysit? Oh, that's me. Sorry, don't talk about myself in the third person. I'm not a basketball player or a politician. Did I babysit while working in Windsor? A, Sarah Polley. B, Gary Coleman. C, Kristen Bell. All right, so the answers you can send to gracefullyfrankly@gmail.com. And on that note, we shall away. We will be back a week today. I promise not to rhyme it all.
Oh, my goodness.
Although we really had a ball. So there, I can't help it. Lisa, I could do a whole podcast in rhyme. And then, that would be it for us. It would have been nice after, just 6 episodes.
And we're out. Yes.
You take care. We'll find something to argue about. And in the meantime, happy Valentine's Day. And I wish for you a friend like Lisa. That's all. That was my card to you. I don't even know what stamps cost because we buy them by the roll. So there you go, Lisa. We're done.
It's okay. I'll take it. I'll take whatever love I can get.
Bye.